I was going to wear a purple shirt today, but I realized I don't own anything purple. Hello and welcome to another episode of Toast. I'm Ryan, your host for The Toast. Got my Marvel mug today. So let's talk Jessica Jones, the new Netflix series. If you're watching this, then you know, so let's get started. If you haven't seen the show, spoilers ahead. Now, Jessica Jones is a great show. Netflix is really knocking it out of the park with all these Marvel shows. Well, so far there's only been 2. I'm only going to pick on a few things that I have a problem with. Not things that ruin the show at all. A few little points that slowed down the show or made it feel a little long. One of the most interesting things about the show was the law aspect. You don't usually get to see the ramifications of the law on superheroes. And I know technically they're really, really street level superheroes, not even superheroes. I mean, she's a dick, she's a private eye. Now, Hope Schlottman is our main focus here. She was abused by Kilgrave, and now the law is coming down on her, which is not her fault, and we're going to follow her through the legal process. Now, that was great at first. We focused on her, and it was a one point of interest, and it was great. Then the scope widens, and we get into it with a lot of different characters. Everyone seems to have a run-in with the law in this show, and then they're all worrying about, like, oh crap, am I going to be arrested, or oh, the ramifications of this and that and the other thing, and it just becomes a bit too much. You have too many people where you're thinking, well, they'd be arrested for that, oh, why aren't they being arrested? When you're going to have that much law process, focus on one person, not a bunch of people. It just gets a bit too confusing. I like it when it focuses on the one character who is dealing with that issue. There's a lot of other issues they have to deal with in the show. Simpson, for example, when he first gets mind control and he's suffering with the guilt of trying to kill Patsy Walker. That was really good. You're dealing with the whole mental issues and the guilt and the stress that he's going through. Then they over-abused his character and turned him into a roided up guy. I know he's actually Nuke from the comics, but really I'd never heard of that character before until I researched it. So really they didn't need him in there. I think he was another character that just needed to be cut out after his usefulness. Speaking of Simpson, they made him into a character that does not get resolved at all. Like, he disappears at the end of the show, drug trials, blah, 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 blah. I got a feeling that his loose thread is never going to be tied up in any of the other shows. I don't think Jessica Jones is going to get a second season unless this guy shows up in a different Netflix season. I just think it's going nowhere, and he just disappeared from the face of the earth. Patsy Walker was great. Patsy Walker was a good mirror. Her and her mother's relationship mirrored what Jessica was going through, the abuse, so they both abused. And they're best friends, and they help each other, and she has the funds, and Jessica has the detective skills. Luke Cage is in the show. We finally get to meet Luke Cage. For his own series, we get him and Jessica Jones. I think a bit premature. I love the fact that Luke Cage is in this, and because, she has a relationship with Jessica. I think it was about the 3rd episode they revealed his unbreakable skin. I think that was better suited later in the show. In one of the last episodes, Luke Cage's bar gets blown up. For people who don't know Luke Cage, that would have been the perfect point for him to be blown up and everyone's going, oh no, they killed Luke Cage, I really liked him. He walks out covered in fire, and he's absolutely fine. That would be a good reveal for his powers right there. End of the show, you've come to love him as just a guy, and then boom, you're revealed that he's superhuman. Okay, David Tennant as Kilgrave. David Tennant himself, great actor. Kilgrave himself, terrible character. Definitely the most disturbing villain we've seen in the Marvel Universe yet. Now, at the beginning of the show, he was fantastic. He was subtle, but threatening. Everything he did was so precise and so cunning, and he was always a step ahead. He always had his back against a wall. He always used other people. Lots of misdirection. But then, later on in the show, he was amped up too much. It got too big. He had too many followers. It's like the whole city was just belonged to him. And that's where he got careless. Biggest problem I had with the show is Kilgrave got caught way too much. If Kilgrave wasn't so obsessed with Jessica, he would have made it scot-free. He made a lot of mistakes. And one could argue you make a lot of mistakes when you're in love. This guy is supposed to be, he's not a genius, but definitely a conniving villain. He uses a lot of people and he uses them very well, but he gets caught like 4 times throughout the series. And each time he got caught, I thought they could end the series right there. Jessica's stakes were not high enough that she could not just snap his neck right at the beginning or subdue him any other way. Again, it gets very bogged down with the law stuff. If I were her, I would have just taken care of the guy and then skipped town or jumped to town, because that's what she does, she jumps. At the end of the show, when he got super amped with the drugs and he started to turn purple, I got so excited. I thought he was going to be purple in the next scene and we would have a fully purple man. Not just for the effects, so because I would have liked to have seen that. I think story-wise, that would have been great. I hate the fact that he died at the end of the series. My preferred thing is he would have turned purple and then became very reclusive because of that. He would have left on the boat. He was purple. He really couldn't be seen in public as much as being purple, so he would keep a much lower profile and just go off and do his own thing. And then he could have appeared later on in the series, later on in other Netflix shows. He would always have this background purple man out there, and they could have utilized him and utilized the great actor. Another way I thought they could deal with it, because it was a much harsher show. This thing was gritty. It had some gritty realism, gritty bloody effects, and breaking of beds. That being said, I got a feeling like they could have captured Purple Man or done something to him to end the show with him still alive and Jessica still maintaining her morals about not killing somebody. Like, she could have just got in his mouth and ripped his tongue out and he could have never spoke again, but he would still be alive. I know it's pretty brutal. That or have him contained and his mouth sewn shut, or like a Loki gag put in there. It's like in Man of Steel. Superman broke Zod's neck. He doesn't kill people. I think Jessica Jones is trying to, she's a private eye. She's on the side of the law, fringe side of the law. So I don't think she should have killed him, and I think there was a better way to do it. I think the series was bit too long. I think it should have been cut down to maybe 10 episodes. Other than that, the show was great. Don't get me wrong, the show was really good. Really well written. I'm loving all the big main female cast. Anyway, Jessica Jones, I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had a good time with it. And for that reason, I'm saying Jessica Jones is a nice piece of warm buttery toast. Long enough to keep you around, and in the nice rich buttery universe of Marvel, it's just a winner. Anyway, that's enough from me on Jessica Jones. Thanks for watching, and again, cheers.